Editing David here. Just wanted to let you know for about the first 3 to 5 minutes, the audio quality is fairly intermittent. For whatever reason, the preamp we were using didn't arm mine and Pat's mics properly. It sort of just sorts itself out at about 5 minutes, and then throughout, Pat's just a little bit quiet. I spent basically a day and a half trying to get the best version of this so that you can kind of hear it clearly. But if there is any weird audio, at least initially, and if Pat's quiet throughout, I apologize. It's the best we can do. Hope you enjoy it.
I'm your host Patrick, and joining me is Michi.
Hello.
And
joining us as a special guest again is David McNeil.
You can't get rid of me. You can't get rid of me. I'm here to stay. I'm like a bad stain, a bad fly in the ointment.
That is true. Get the Glen 20 out. Get the Ajax rain white. Because this man
It's too regional.
is here to stay.
It's too regional. What are we doing, Pat?
This week, we're covering
2003?
Yeah.
2003 film Daredevil by
Ben
Generic.
What's
Affleck.
in it? I don't know. I didn't write that down.
Yeah,
it was
it's a
some
generic.
it was
triple
some
name.
like super generic
something Johnson.
Yeah, it was like David,
One of the Johnsons.
Brian Johnson or something.
Probably should have looked that up.
It's too late now.
Honestly, for this movie, it doesn't deserve a director credit. No,
That's not true.
That sounds kind of super mean, honestly.
It does. We'll bleep that. We'll bleep that, and no one will know what you said.
He did Ghost Rider, and you said you liked that, so
That is true.
yeah.
It's the dude who made Ghost Rider.
The boy who made Ghost Rider. The thing about this film, I feel, is that it makes... Look, we'll get into it. But the reason we're covering it is, so we're in the middle of doing Daredevil in the Details.
Yeah.
Which is our Daredevil podcast, our collab between Madness and ZeroIndent. And as a kind of like, at the end of season 1, we thought what would be fun if we dragged Michi into our madness and we forced him, in fact, to involve himself in the method to the madness. In this case, the method being watching 2003's Daredevil, which, look, I'm not sure if it's anything. Even like we just watched it. We've never done this before, have we? I don't think.
There's a lot of things about this that we haven't done. For example, us being in the same room.
It's quite weird. Yeah. Michi can give me his scout, kind of like unimpressed, look in real life when I say something unnecessarily academic. We're in the same room. If you're watching the video, you will have worked that out, I hope. It's all green screens, yeah. Green screens that might be better than what's in Daredevil at certain times, because it's rough. This is a 2003 film all the time.
It is. It's an early 2000s film. It's like it's a mixture between The Matrix and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man film. Like literally, if you put that in like in a movie version of ChatGPT, this is what you would get.
it's at the end of each season of Daredevil, the TV show, we're covering random Daredevil, tangentially related Daredevil topics. So
That's the crossover point.
Yeah, 2003 Daredevil right now, and then later on we're going to cover Elektra, and then after that we're going to cover the Punisher, the Thomas Jane one.
Oh, it's so good.
Wait, how many seasons have you done?
In the middle of wrapping up season 1 at the moment. We've got like 2 episodes left.
David, one day, we're planning this, we're workshopping the Daredevil in the Details. David says to me, you know what, I think we should cover all the Daredevil media, including the movies. And I went, what?
He was like, the what?
What are you talking about? Why the fuck would we watch the 2003 Ben Affleck Daredevil movie? That's a terrible idea. Get the fuck out of here, David.
And do you feel like now you understand why?
Here we are.
Yeah, and yet here we all are. But you understand why, though? Because I
do.
I think the thing that's so interesting about this film is that it, in isolation, which I'm so curious about your words, in isolation, so buck wild as a project that someone paid millions of dollars for. But in context with the Daredevil TV show, is clearly an inspiration point for so many things that we love about it, but they're done poorly.
That exactly 100%.
Yeah.
What you just said, like, yeah, it is. It's actually very interesting with the context of the Daredevil TV show, it is, yeah, I didn't realize, I didn't, I mean, it's, you know, it makes sense that these characters, events, plot points are from the comics, and they've been adapted before. They didn't come from the Void. They didn't come from somewhere. Yeah, it is interesting, this first sloppy attempt at an adaptation.
I think certainly proof positive the comics are dumb as fuck, and we all knew that. I don't think anyone was questioning that. Yeah.
Anyway,
summary, or do we do high level thoughts first? I can't remember how the show goes.
We
usually do. What do you call it?
thoughts.
Yeah, overall thoughts.
Yeah, Michi, this is you're cold coming into this. What did you think? Like, because I imagine
I actually don't know even what Daredevil does.
Yeah.
Like, I know fuck all about it. Like, I know he's blind because I saw No Way Home, and I know he's got special powers, but that movie didn't clarify whatsoever exactly what his deal is.
Right.
So, I still don't know what he does.
What do you think his deal is?
Well, he's clearly got, like, superpowers. Like, he can jump real high and take big hits, but, like, how?
Because he's blind.
Yeah,
that's kind of what the movie said, but he went blind doesn't mean that everything else gets better. Like,
well, that's interesting you say that. So in the TV show, he doesn't have powers beyond like echolocation.
He's
pretty
just
much.
a dude.
Yeah. He can't jump high. He doesn't have super strength or anything.
Gets the shit kicked out of him.
He just
constantly.
he has hyper perception.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this movie, I can see why you think that, because he does leap across buildings like Spider-Man.
He's a big flippy super guy.
Yeah, he is.
It's strange.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought the movie was shit, to be honest. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was bordering on, like, when does this end? Like, I think I got to that point at about an hour in, and you said how long is left, and I went,
and
somehow
David
an hour.
put on the director's cut. Not the normal cut that's half an hour shorter, so we had to endure half an hour more.
I don't think we should blame anyone in particular. Listen, we happened to acquire a copy of the film.
How do we even get that?
It's not
the
important.
director's cut.
Yeah,
it's not important.
By totally legal means.
Legally, I cannot say, but it is unfortunate that did occur. This is objectively worse than the film I saw when I was a kid. Like, it is just like the extra content was excised for a reason, and never so much did I feel that than the like fourth scene in the fucking cafe, where you're like, what are we like? What? Where's the plot?
Which
like,
one's that?
That's a good question, Michi, because there are the fucking
there's a lot of cafe scenes.
Yeah,
it was the one after the first entrance of Elektra.
It's like Seinfeld.
Yeah, where they were like talking about the case, and it's just like it's a lot. This film is too much, and I can see why they cut a lot of scenes. I didn't like this. I think there's a lot of things in it which I found really noteworthy and interesting when it comes to like what Daredevil becomes. And there's a thing which Michi doesn't know yet, which I'm gonna break for him live once we do the summary about Daredevil, and a thing he kept saying, which I don't want to say until I reveal it. But a lot of my brain pat went to like, yeah, you can see where the inspiration's coming from pretty heavily here.
Yeah.
It has its quirkiness that I kind of like. Like, I like Colin Farrell's character.
Oh my
Bullseye,
God, he's acting the hell out of
Yeah,
everything.
it's just
Chewing the
funny,
scenery.
you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you're meant to take it seriously, but I feel like you're meant to, right? And that's what kind of makes it shit.
Well, that was your point about
Feels
the
like a
whole
parody.
You said it like halfway. Yeah, it feels like a parody.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I can't tell if they're serious or not.
Yeah.
And that's not a. You should know. We should know. Watching the film, you should be able to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pat, what about you? I mean, did you know any? You didn't really know much about this. You've seen it before, like I had, but a billion years ago.
I saw it when I was like 10.
Mm-hmm.
Every Tuesday at Blockbuster, they would have $1 rentals, and you could rent it for a week. So I would just make my way through all the superhero films. I remember getting this one. Oh, I got this in Elektra, and my mum disapproved because it was like really violent, and there was that really raunchy sex scene in Elektra, and she was like, "What the fuck are you watching?" I'm like, "No, it's okay, mum."
Is it violent? I guess for a 10-year-old, it is pretty violent.
For the time, it was pretty violent.
I mean, I was watching
superhero films.
Fucking X-Men was the same. Anyway, this movie has some like swaggy edits and stuff like that. I won't lie. Like there are some like kind of music video-ish elements to it.
You mean when they play Evanescence?
Yes, I mean that is pretty explicit.
Yeah, it's very stylish.
It is. It's stylish. It's kind of swaggy. Like I mean, you know, overall it's awful, but like it's when you. I have a very unique perspective when it comes to going into shitty films. I think my bar is like so low that I tend to enjoy shit like this.
Interesting.
And like, so it was alright.
Okay.
I kind of dug it.
Okay, that's distressing to hear because I
Yeah.
feel like me and Michi were just tortured for 2 hours.
Like it?
Yeah.
It's upsetting.
No, you know, if you were like,
No ribs for you.
no what?
No ribs for you.
Yeah.
You just get the coleslaw pat.
If you held a gun to my head, you know, obviously I would concede that this is not a good film, but like,
You would concede? When push comes to shove, you'd admit it's bad.
I mean, in what universe would anyone sort of argue that this film is good, and therefore, in what universe would anyone go into this film expecting like, yeah, bro, fucking 2003 Daredevil, this is gonna be the shit? No one ever like.
But I think that's the trick. I think that's the maneuver at the time. Is
Yeah,
it was this
yeah.
like it was very self-serious. I think at the time, where it was like, oh, this is. It was that post '90s grunge
Yeah.
superhero era of like everyone is in leather and it's like
Yeah.
that was the era and
Yeah.
and I
It fits it really well.
And yeah, and that's the thing I keep coming back to is like, I said it's very Sin City like, but Sin City is very self-aware in its ridiculousness. This feels like all of the tropes of that era without any of the self-awareness. Like it's just fully leant forward into the camp.
Yeah.
And you got to respect that, I think, even if it's not good.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it feels like it's just kind of copying shit though. Copying the stuff that was a year before or the 2 years before. I mean, all the stuff in it is just kind of from
Yeah, we
something
will get
else.
into that. It's really just yeah.
Like, especially from the Matrix, right? Like you said, it's a crossover of the Matrix,
Matrix and
and
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, and that's exactly what it is.
yeah. Yeah, man. When you have grunge and camp to this degree, like, how can you not, look at it in comparison to modern day stuff, which is really clean and sleek, and it's like unique and it's interesting in like its aesthetics. And I mean, you know, again, like, gun to my head, it's not a good film, but like it's cool, man. It's
You really
interesting.
like this, didn't you? I don't know what to do with that. Can we do the summary and then can we? Because I need to tell Michi the thing that he doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
It's time to do a Batman.
Who could say, Michi? Who could say?
All right.
Who could say?
As a child, young Matt Murdock is accidentally blinded by toxic chemicals shortly after witnessing his father extorting money for a local mobster. Despite losing his sight, Matt's remaining senses are dramatically enhanced, giving him superhuman agility and sonar-like hearing. Years later, an adult Matt works as an attorney in Hell's Kitchen with his friend Foggy. Ben Urich, a New York Post reporter who chronicles Daredevil's exploits, attracts attention for a series of articles on the Kingpin, a shadowy underworld figure who allegedly controls all of New York's organized crime. Unbeknownst to Urich, the Kingpin is actually Wilson Fisk, a brutal mobster who poses as a legitimate businessman. Matt falls in love with Elektra Nachios, a Greek-American woman skilled in martial arts, unaware that she's the daughter of Fisk's Lieutenant Nicholas Nachios. Later, when Nachios attempts to end his relationship with Fisk hires Bullseye, a hitman with preternatural aim, to kill him. When Daredevil unsuccessfully attempts to save Nachios from assassination, Bullseye manages to frame Daredevil for his murder by stealing his opponent's distinctive baton and impaling Nachios with it. Afterward, Urich deduces that Matt is Daredevil, and after realizing that he disguises his baton as a white cane. Believing Daredevil to be responsible for her father's murder, Elektra attempts to take revenge by killing him. Meanwhile, Fisk assigns Bullseye to kill Elektra. The latter tracks Daredevil down and challenges him to a fight before incapacitating him by stabbing him through the shoulder. Daredevil protests that he didn't kill her father, but Elektra does not believe him until she forcibly unmasks him and realizes that he's Matt. Moments later, when Bullseye tracks Elektra down, Matt is forced to watch helplessly as Bullseye kills her. Determined to avenge Elektra, Matt ambushes Fisk in his office. Fisk answers Matt's questions as to when he killed Jack on Fallon's orders, making him responsible for the deaths of 2 people Matt loved the most. Sometime after Elektra's death, Matt visits the spot where the 2 of them first kissed, and unexpectedly finds Elektra's necklace that has her name engraved upon it in Braille, hinting that Elektra might still be alive. Urich prepares to publish an article revealing Daredevil's identity, but he chooses not to publish it at the last minute, coming to believe that Daredevil's efforts may have made the city better. End of film.
Wait, I got one question.
Yeah.
What was Hector Salamanca's role in this?
He was the mobster that was sort of strong-arming Matt's father.
Yeah.
Right, but he was a subordinate of the Kingpin.
Everyone is.
Yeah.
Okay, right, fair enough.
So you've already picked the trick here. So Pat knows this, the listener knows this, but so Daredevil as a character was born as a joke response to Batman.
Oh, really?
Because the idea was like, oh, he dresses up in tights and he's called the Batman. Well, bats have sonic hearing and they're also blind, which isn't true, but it was the 60s. And so Daredevil was born out of a response to, it was Marvel joking, it was Stan Lee joking about Batman.
Yeah.
And being like, he's ridiculous. Like, what if we did our own version of that? And their own version of that is Daredevil, who is fully blind. And we've been talking a lot in the podcast so far about the way in which the Daredevil TV show, Netflix's Daredevil, takes a lot of the inspiration from Nolan's Dark Knight and from the Batman character writ large and finds a way to reinvent it. This feels like they read a bunch of Daredevil comics and they watched Tim Burton's Batman and went, what if that plus the Matrix? And that's just the whole aesthetic. And it's like the leather coats and the slow-mo flips and stuff. But yeah, so he's based on Batman. And so one of the things that Pat and I was doing this, I imagine you were as well, is there are certain shots in this film where I went, that's just a Batman comic book panel. Like, they're just shooting the thing that it's based on.
Yeah.
And knowing that, does that change anything for you? Like, because it started as a parody.
Well, that's what I said during the movie, right?
Yeah.
It just reminded me immediately of Batman.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Well,
wait, hang on. It's a joke response.
Well, that's how it started, and then it became self-serious because the 90s
Oh, so it
happened.
is serious now. So people.
I don't know if that film is a parody or not. I don't think it is. I think it's really authentically self-serious.
How old's the character?
70s, I think.
Okay.
70s, 80s.
Yeah, surely it's serious by then.
Yeah.
By 2003.
Well, I mean, started out as a joke character. Like, the conception, I imagine, would be something like Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, like, just fucking, like, smoking doobs in their office, being like, oh yeah, what if Batman was actually blind?
Well, yeah,
and then, but you know, actually creating a comic series requires a lot of work and a lot of
money.
Yeah, money and like, you know, that's not something they were fucking like high for the whole time. What I'm getting at is that like,
yeah, at some point, someone had to go to an artist and say, you know how Batman has ears? What if horns?
Yeah.
Like
you know, joke conception. Like yeah. Like I get what you're saying, but like, also they must have been like, at some point they were like, this could be something.
This could be, and it is something.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Clearly now it is. Yeah.
Well, it's huge. The other thing. Do you know in the comic not this film or the TV show, but do you know in the comic imagination the chemical that blinds him?
No.
So this is my favorite fact of all time. So it's the same ooze that makes the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Wait, what? That's Marvel?
No. Well, eventually, yeah. They
what do you mean eventually?
Well, they end up blending together, and then they buy the rights, and they lose the rights. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
So the ooze that makes him blind and gives him the superpowers.
Yeah.
In the TV show, not superpowers, but yeah, that goes down the drain and lands on the turtles. Okay.
Lands on some baby turtles.
And they become Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Yep.
The same
Seriously?
Same accident. So that's why in the film. That's why in the.
At the same time, I thought that was going to be a joke.
No, what?
Yeah.
No.
Seriously,
that's a thing that was canon for a while.
in the comics.
In the comics,
Right?
Because comics are dumb. Yeah.
And what exactly is this chemical? Do you know the name of it?
Green ooze.
Yeah,
I don't know.
green ooze.
Yeah.
Toxic ooze. Chemical 21. I don't know.
Oozinium.
Ooze. Okay, Jim Cameron.
I just don't like how his origin story. It's kind of shit.
Well,
So like, he gets blinded by some fucking ooze, and then what? Like, so what?
Well, he just like gets good at everything for no reason. Like in the TV show, he has to like work and like train and like. But in this one, he just can do all of it.
Yeah, he's just a.
He sees
superhero
everything
from the beginning.
in echolocation, in the Assassin's Creed Eagle Vision.
In the Eagle Vision, yeah. I think they just fully watched Spider-Man and were like, oh, that, but instead of a spider, what if...
Chemicals.
He went... Yeah, what if chemicals? It's so goofy.
Are you aware that perjury is a crime, Mr. Quesada?
Objection. My client is a respectable member of the community. Where Miss Sutton has a history of drug
My
and
client is not on
alcohol
trial
abuse,
here.
This not only makes her testimony
Nor is her
suspect,
testimony
but her character
suspect.
as well.
Gentlemen, that's enough.
The truth is, Mr. Murdock, is that Miss Sutton enjoyed every minute of it.
Mr. Quesada, for your sake, I hope justice is found here today. Before justice finds you.
I think there is something the film is doing here around. So his dad Jack is this boxer, and he's over the hill. He's retired, and he's making a comeback career because Matt gets blinded, and they're coming back together. I thought that was a really interesting maneuver. Like just narratively, it ties them together a lot tighter, but then they don't really like do anything with it. The TV show is very interested in that relationship and how it affects Matt. But the film just goes like, it finds this really interesting narrative thread and stitches it together and then forgets about it. Because I was waiting for like somehow the ending to be about that, and it just isn't. I mean, I guess he fights Bullseye, but then instead of being a slugger who's down on his luck, he's flipping about again. Like there's just the action and the narrative are so disconnected for me.
Yeah,
that stuff never
100%,
quite.
I agree.
It never quite lands.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm gonna ask you with unpack because I need to know the vibe here. So, Dad Murdock, which is what I've written in my notes. I'm just living with it. Dad Murdock has horns. He's had someone embroider horns on his robe.
Yep.
And that's how Matt gets the idea for the Devil of Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
Mileage, what did you think? Was it good? Was it bad? How out of 10, how cheesy was that? Did it work for you?
Like the concept of him adopting the horns from his dad.
Because that's like basically, it's not a secret identity anymore.
Yeah. No, I actually
his dad fully walks out wearing the hood down to the point where the costume is.
Yeah. I actually wanted to comment on that because I couldn't really see the relationship during the movie. Like, sorry, not the relationship, but the point of it all. I didn't understand that he was a devil of Hell's Kitchen. Is that what's going on here? So the suburb's called Hell's Kitchen, so he's meant to be the devil because he's some super boxer.
And then, so he's the devil of Hell's Kitchen, and then when Matt takes over the mantle, he's the Daredevil because he's afraid of nothing.
Right. Okay. That was not explained at all in the movie.
No,
was
it isn't.
Semi-implied just through the horns, but
it also sucks. At least in the show, they kind of like it takes a whole season for someone to call him Daredevil.
Yeah.
It's just really goofy. Is my
I
general
agree.
like narratively, it's goofy. But yeah, I mean, I thought the horns were interesting because they're coming back. So they're making a comeback together, right? And I was expecting the film to then basically do a double beat and be like, okay, well, Matt's down on his luck and he's gonna have a comeback and he's gonna win the championship belt, like win the fight or whatever. But the way he gets knocked down is with his encounter with Elektra, and yes, he does get beat down, but you don't really get the sense, like I was saying with that scene with Bullseye, where he's fully injured, he has to get up and fight again. You don't feel like it's there's no friction to that, to him achieving his arc. He just says, hey, Father Father Lantern. He just says to Father Lantern, like, hey, get out of Dodge. I'm going to deal with this. But there's no struggle to him getting back up and doing his comeback. And so it just doesn't land emotionally when you get that final sequence with Fisk where like he beats it down, because like unless he is struggling to achieve that, what's his arc? He just gets up and does a flip.
There was, in my mind, there was no connection at all between the the sequence of his father and him, and the modern day sequence, like they're just two mutually independent sort of like plots.
It's just so crazy how interwoven they are thematically in the show as well.
Yeah, I think that is what's sort of confounding about this movie is definitely like for me, actually, like for me, having the context of the show, having the themes in my mind, then watching this movie, like just completely fumble them and like have them as like liquid, like that's just like seeping through their finger, like the cracks in their fingers, and just like, this is a weird metaphor, but like it just takes themes as beats in a story and like actually just like fundamentally like doesn't understand like what purpose they serve in a narrative. And it's just like, yeah bro, like you gotta include these things, like Matt Murdock's relationship with his dad, yeah, that's kind of important, isn't it? Throw that in there. All right, that's done. Let's move on to his modern day sequence where he's like fighting Kingpin, and like you know, it's so disconnected. It's like nothing cohesive about it. It's like just,
it's like adaptation sickness writ large, where it's like a thing is aesthetically in the source material, so you must include it somehow.
Fucking Zack
With
Snyder.
fucking hey, I don't want to get emails. We love the Snyder cut. Bring back the Snyderverse. I don't want emails. Every time anything I do, I say any shit about Zack Snyder, I get a fucking death threat.
Seriously?
I bet you do.
Why?
Have you met me? I upset a lot of people.
No, but what's so good about Zack Snyder?
That's
not a critical question.
It's not
just
good.
a question.
He's not good. Is my issue.
Ooh. Ooh.
No,
the emails are gonna come flooding in.
The issue is it's the same thing when I talk about Star Wars anytime. My issue is that it's a very juvenile approach to the way that one could consume media, and these people have like a self-investment in, like they have staked a part of their identity in these stories, and the second you criticize them, instead of them going, okay, well, text is an object that's created in space and time by a person and is not, like, my criticism of Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman is not a criticism of the person, it's a criticism of the text.
Oh, no, fair enough.
But because they stake such an identity
right,
in it,
because of his own personal life.
Yeah, and they go, oh, well,
Yeah.
like, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
And I just don't fuck with it, and I've refused to fuck with it. And I just don't want emails, and I'm gonna get an email because of that. Even saying that, someone's gonna email me.
At least you're getting emails.
Yeah. I can email
wow,
you.
Michi.
I got an email account. I can send you an email.
We don't do that self-depreciating humor here, mate.
No.
Cut that out.
We bully each
It's
other,
only
not
happened like
ourselves.
100 times on the podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are pretty respectful of yourselves generally.
Yeah.
Because I'm not there to bully you.
I
That's
know
true.
self-depreciating is okay every now and then.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of related to that, I've noted down here that it leans on the Batman inspiration in very literal narrative beats rather than like aesthetically, even though it does aesthetically quite heavily. Like, for example, it's not just that he goes blind; it's also that his dad gets murdered in front of him.
Yeah, I just realized that. Yeah.
They go for the whole hog here. They're not just like, oh, he's blind. It's like, no, he dies in front of him like Batman. He's an orphan like Batman.
But he's not rich, right?
No, he's poor. I mean, well, we don't know. Did you see that apartment? How could you not be rich? It's fully crazy. I don't know. In the typical source material, he's broke.
I can't
as
even
fuck.
remember what the apartment looks like. We
How do you
finish watching
it looked
the
like
film.
a industrial steel. It looked like
that underground shit.
Yeah,
that can't be just it though. Where was the rest of the apartment?
No, I think that's it. It's out in the sensory deprivation tank. By the way,
Which
was really. Listen, I think it's cheesy and corny. That's a cool detail. That the only way this guy can get to sleep, because they really play up the over stimulation here. And the only way he can get to sleep is a sensory deprivation tank. Yeah. And so when the girl calls him and she's like, hey, where do you go at 3 a.m. every fucking night? You go, is he going to be Daredevil or is he going back home to a sensory deprivation tank where he can sleep? Mm-hmm. And that ambiguity is never answered. And that was one of the few times in the film where I went, good story. Like, that's a really good character note, I feel. Can't cuddle in a sensory deprivation tank. Yeah. Can't be intimate in a sensory you can be intimate with yourself.
but like not with others. Like, I just think that's an interesting character note. That would really alienate you from the rest of humanity, I think.
Yeah.
Why am I defending this film? What am
Yeah, I don't know. I think like
I've thought about it more than they have.
It's just it sticks out to me how like in order to have a sensory deprivation tank, you need to be fucking loaded.
Yeah, that's the thing. Where did he get his fucking money from?
Which stands in contrast to the show. Like in the show, Michi, like he's
so poor.
Yeah, he's really poor, and so he kind of has the same ailment where he's overly sensitive, and the way he gets around that is by having silk sheets.
Yeah.
Like bed sheets.
Yeah.
Right, and which is an interesting compromise. Like if Daredevil in the show, if he was rich enough, he probably would sleep in a sensory deprivation tank, right? But
he can't afford it.
He can't afford it. He's poor.
So how's he go to bed?
Silk sheets, baby.
Silk sheets and cops and noise.
Yeah. He just.
But there's another cool detail, which is that his apartment is like opposite a giant neon billboard, but because he's blind, it doesn't bother him.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Like it's little things like that where they've considered the source material and been like, we talk about this a lot in the show, which is procedurally, well, like how does this world function at a process level? And the show really gets that, where it's like, how does Matt afford to live in the apartment he lives in? Because there's a giant billboard that for anyone else would lower the rent and no one would want to live there. But for him, he gets it at a good rate. And this film feels like everything happens in isolation. Like every single location, sequence, character feel like avatars in a video game someone has programmed to do the thing they're supposed to do. There is no texture to this world, really. Like it's very artificial.
Yeah.
It's just all flips and shit.
Yeah, like some of the flips are good.
Yeah, the action isn't too bad.
Several times throughout, we were all like, "That was a cool stunt," but like, one or two, not.
It's not too bad, the action, when you think about it.
Some of the opening stuff was. There was a point though, during the bar fight, early on, where he.
What bar fight?
I
totally forgotten everything.
Where he flips into the fans and then the fans deflect the bullets.
Yeah, what the fuck was that about?
I was like, I didn't know fans could do that.
You never shot a gun into a fan, have you? So
not recently.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Shit.
Yeah.
That was a terrible action scene.
It's pretty bad. And then all the pool tables are on fire and he walks through.
Yeah.
It's metal as hell, but it makes no goddamn sense.
What was he doing there again?
He was there to rough up the guy who got off the thing for raping the woman that he was defending.
Oh god, it's just so overly complicated. It's so complicated. How am I meant to
and that guy worked
draw
for
that conclusion?
That guy worked for Fizz,
right?
And that was our intro to the plot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who knows?
But that's like if you think about the Batman and someone's like talking through the Batman, you can just be like, you start at the start and then it just sort of like your brain fills in the rest because you remember it. This feels like the opposite of that, where every single thing is so disconnected. You're like, there was a scene where a guy.
Yeah, it's so early 2000s plot. Just like all motivation is really arbitrary. You got to know the exact specifics of like the setting and the motivation to understand like why the character's there, what he gets from that scene, and then where he's going next. Like it kind of reminds me of like Quantum of Solace, for example.
Yeah. That's a good comparison. Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's actually a really good comparison. That movie is exactly like that. Yeah.
Well, it's the same kind of like superhero genre style film where it's sort of very transactional in its plot construction, where it's sort of like, well, Bond needs to be here for the next action sequence. What's your mileage on? And I realize some people like this. Don't leave a comment if you want. I don't. It's fine. There's a thing that happens here which I thought was noteworthy. I don't know if it's good or bad. I noted it in my notes, or in my notes app. It was noteworthy enough to get into my notes, is what I'm saying. And the thing was, in that bar fight, when they're firing guns, it makes there's like a tinnitus style sound effect where when they fire a gun, you hear Matt's hearing go a bit like echoey and numb for a few seconds. And that was the kind of detail where I went, oh, like that gives this world texture.
How so?
Well, the idea that like if we're experiencing this scene through Matt going and fighting these guys, and he's a dude who's very sensitive to sound. If someone fires a gun and your entire mechanism for seeing the world is sonics, that's gonna fuck with your heuristics, like with your internal mechanisms, with your internal compass. They don't do anything with it.
Well, you know, it's funny.
Until the Bullseye fight, I
It
guess.
totally
Yeah,
contradicts
exactly.
a scene where he's in his apartment and he turns the volume on his stereo up to
Pat's
max or
right.
some shit. Like,
What?
But he's doing that to drown out the other sounds
what other
of the city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's still loud though. That's the point, right? Doesn't it
Yeah.
disrupt? Like,
Yeah,
isn't
but
it uncomfortable?
presumably listening to Linkin Park is more enjoyable than the concussive sound of bullet gunshots, right?
But he didn't. He seemed fine in the end with the gunshots. And then
I'm
when,
not
when he
saying
fights Bullseye,
look, I'm
and
not
then
saying
a
they
few
do
organ
anything.
pipes get hit, he's fucked.
Michi,
Like,
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying as an idea, I thought it was noteworthy.
Yeah, no,
They
it's
do
cool.
nothing
Yeah.
with, but like everything in this film, they
Yeah.
set it up and they do nothing with it.
Well, one thing they set up is the whole rain gives him better vision shit. I
That-
think that was probably one of the best things about the whole fucking
That was
movie.
so well. That was they set it up, they remind you, and then they pay it off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
That was good.
the best part of the film. Can you explain, Pat, the raindrops? Because it's also in the show a little bit.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it? Oh, okay.
Well,
Kind of.
it kind of revolves around the concept of echolocation of how like sound waves bounce off like solid objects, and therefore like, you know, animals like bats can map out an environment based on like, you know, the senses they have of sound waves bouncing of objects. And so therefore when it is raining, the rain gives a visual, or to us a visual map of the environment of when raindrops hit a object or a surface.
Like for example, like a knife that someone's swinging at Murdock, you
yeah.
know, and he's able to, he can gauge it so much more. He's so much more effective in the rain.
Yeah, because there is so much more points of like I don't know. There's a lot of points of contact.
The frequency of the sounds is increased, so he gets a better map, right?
Just the volume of contact on surfaces is increased.
Better way of
so-
saying it. Yeah.
yeah.
And then in this, he, I mean, the setup is brilliant, right? So it's the first setup is Elektra on the rooftop, right? So Elektra turns up all in red, and I quietly rolled my eyes because I've read
Wait,
the comics.
she's in red?
She's in red in that scene. Yeah,
She was red. Yeah.
fully in red. Yeah,
Okay,
And
okay.
I was like, okay.
Why does that matter?
The costume in the comics is red.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I went, okay. Just nerd shit where you're like, I get the aesthetic impulse. So she turns up, and he says to her, "Hey, I want to show you my favorite spot in the city, my favorite view when I could see." And he brings her up there, and this is clearly a move he has. I feel this is a move that Matt has he's got this locked in the chamber,
He does.
right?
He has a bunch of these.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of them. And he brings her up to the roof. And he knows it's going to rain in a few minutes. So he's stalling. He's talking pretty, trying to woo her. And she's like, I should go, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he, it's going to rain in a second. And she says, it's not going to rain in a second. He says, let me tell you. And then the way he convinces her, he says to her, listen, the rain, I can see everything. It's like I think I wrote it down, did I? No, I didn't. That's cool. Thanks, me. I did not write that down. But he says something along the lines of like, it gives me like an echo map of the entire city. He has some line. I thought it was a really good line. Where he's like, you know, I can see the whole of the city. And so she waits, and then it starts.
So the reason he asks her to stay is so that he can see her.
See her.
Yeah. Which is the line.
Which is the line.
Which is actually quite. It's the same. It's consistent with the TV show.
Yeah.
He has these lines where
does it to Karen in season 2.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
he knows Spanish, and then when they have that Spanish woman come in, Karen also knows Spanish, and she's like translating, but Matt's clearly better than her at Spanish, and Karen says, "Oh, do you want to translate?" And he goes, "Oh, no, I like hearing your voice." It's like the same kind of
same move.
Yeah.
Matt is listen, I don't want to be cross about it, but Matt is a root rat.
Dude, he
He is a root rat.
He's
Like
a dog, yeah.
And he always has been in the comics. He's always been a root rat. She-Hulk, he's a root rat. Okay, he's a root rat.
Yeah.
Matt Murdock, dirty boy.
Wait, so hang on. That was the first time he saw her in this rain, basically. Like
as
saw
far
her in
as
this
far
echolocation.
as far as that mechanism is concerned, yeah.
So then why was he so attracted to her in the cafe when she
Because
first walked
Foggy
in?
basically told her that she was the baddie. Also, the conceit of Matt Murdock is that he's blind, but he always can pick the babes.
Yeah.
It's like a big character thing.
Okay.
The
how?
90s were not great for women.
He can just smell her, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what my mind went to.
When
Like,
he hears her before she comes in, I'm like, I don't know. Is he sniffing? It's all red flags.
Is he sniffing?
Is he sniffing?
You sniffing, bro?
But anyway, so he gets her onto the rooftop, and the rain begins, and they have and you see his sort of 2003 style 3D image, rendered version of her face, which is presumably the film with a bunch of filters on.
That's so Matrix. It's exactly
Yeah,
Revolution.
yeah.
Is it? Or is it? No, it's all of them, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, all of them
Revolutions.
have it. No, the first one too. At the end, when he comes
Yep.
back to life and he sees everything.
Yeah,
It's the same
It's-
filter.
It's literally the same.
It must be the
shit,
same
but
text.
just
They
not
colored it
green.
blue.
Yeah, they colored it blue and they
Took out
took
the
all the
lines. Yeah.
Japanese text out of it.
Yeah. It's fucking funny, but it works, and she's fully down bad for it. She's like, "This is my guy. I'm a Mac on this dude. He's my boy." They get and it's it's a real moment with their relationship. That's our first note of it. The second note of which I think is I said it out loud, but I thought it was brilliant. Is after her dad's funeral, she said, "I got nowhere to go." Matt literalizes it and was like, "You can stay with me," and we all went, "That's not what she meant."
Yeah.
Like, she meant like emotion.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You can crash on my pad," it's so funny. It's so funny.
He's a horn dog.
He's a road rat, mate. Like he's just out there trying to get it done. If he was Australian, he'd be a valley rat every Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday
and Sunday.
Brisbaner, you mean?
Yeah, he'd be out there getting it done.
He'd be like the
Everyone-
guy hanging outside of the clubs and like waiting for like the group of girls to come out, and he'd be like, can you direct me to this place, or like
And every
With this walking.
with
stick
his
thing.
Yeah,
walking
exactly.
stick. He'd like bump into them on purpose, like, I'm sorry.
Well, he did that, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he does that in the show
does
as well.
that.
No, he did that in the movie in the cafe when she sits
Right.
down and he bumps
Yeah,
into
yeah,
something.
yeah, that's his move. Well, Matt does that as well. Anyway, in the TV show, it's the second iteration of this, which I thought was quite clever, is which you missed. I don't know what you would do. You were off. Pat was.
I was draining the sausage, mate.
Well, I think you were in. I think you weren't. I think you just were thinking about something. I don't know what you were doing.
I think you were there. You were there.
You were there for
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But what happens is, he says this to her. He says, "Hey, you can stay with me," and she's like, she doesn't really say anything in response, and then it starts raining, and he can fully see her.
Yeah, no,
And then
I saw that.
She puts up the umbrella,
yeah,
and I went, "Oh, that's a firm no. That's a firm no." And then she says nothing and leaves, and he's like, "Oh, wait," and then she just goes. And I thought, like, storytelling wise, fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like
that was
her
alright.
just saying, "Hey, yeah, it's fine." I'm trying to find something good, right? Don't be like that. I just thought that was really clever. And then they used it again at the end where he's able to defeat Fisk because he punches the wall.
Yeah, what did he punch exactly? I don't even.
I think the entire office is a fish tank or something. I'm not really sure. Because at one point he stabs the ground and it has water.
Okay.
Early in the fight. I have no idea what that office is. But anyway, they use it again. That's how he beats Fisk.
Yeah.
And I just thought the one literary device it uses well, it sets up the Chekhov's gun, reminds us, and then fires it at the end.
It's actually cool.
It's a cool little... it's the cool thing.
But that's it, yeah. Now
Yeah, I
we've
can't-
got nothing else to speak about.
So does this mean you want a rematch?
Told you I'd find you. How did you know I wasn't a mugger?
Muggers don't usually wear rose oil or high heels. At least this far from Chelsea. Come here. Something I want to show you.
Wait a second. Exactly how many women have you brought up here anyway?
You're my first.
Good answer.
I thought that was the right answer.
I don't know if there's anything else good about this.
I like
Your
how
little tripod mechanism looks like one of Daredevil's tools. I won't lie.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Don't talk shit about my tripod pet.
Yeah.
Is that
Which Daredevil?
Yeah, which one? The lame one or the cool one?
The lame one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
rough. Yeah.
I like how Bullseye is Irish in this, and then they
We
just
haven't
casted
talked about
Colin
Colin
Farrell.
Farrell
Yeah,
at
yeah.
all.
Why is he? barely has an accent though.
He has a wee bit of an accent, and then we talk about this. He flicks his coat constantly. In this
Like
film.
Batman.
Which I think is why we were like, is this a parody?
Well, that's why it's why I thought it was a goof.
Yeah.
Because it's very on like, it's but then he uses it in a fight, and I went, maybe it's not a parody. But there's several scenes, and I'll put one in the edit where he just goes like, it's literally for no reason. There'll be a frame of him, and he'll just go and then move.
Yeah.
Like he'll just flick it and move, and like it's not for anyone. It's just for us. But we know. Because we've watched him. Like, it's bizarre. But he's chewing the scenery. He has the bullseye tattoo.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that coat flipping shit is also something from The Matrix.
Yeah, but
that's
they
so
don't,
Neo.
Yeah.
They don't but they don't do it apropos of nothing. Like, it's to stylishly finish a sequence that they've done something cool in.
Yeah, but that's what Neo does.
Yeah, but like, but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But he doesn't do anything cool enough to justify. Sometimes it's just a single frame of him.
Yeah.
To tell us he's coming closer, and then he does it and moves, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, like the Matrix. When they do it in the Matrix, it's when the characters are like actually turning at such a momentum that their coats would follow. Whereas this in here,
it's like he's doing it. It's like watching
like an
someone on
affectation.
stage
yeah,
dancing.
it's an affectation. Yeah. He's turning 90 degrees.
And then going,
and then like physically, because his coat doesn't have enough momentum to do that. He physically grabs it and like, it's like,
I don't know.
It's like an awkward like teen like trying to mimic the movies they see, and then it doesn't quite pan out in real life, so they got to like physically make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, I think that speaks to like the artificiality of what's going on here. It just feels very constructed. Like the seams are so obvious. I often say this, but like one of the biggest trick in storytelling is like convincing your audience that they don't see the seams. Like when you're something really good and you're really engaged in it, like the best episodes of Breaking Bad, you kind of forget that it's constructed by a bunch of people that, like, 25 people on set on the day, 5 writers in a room, a director, a showrunner. Like you forget that stuff is happening because you're so absorbed in it. And like there are very few sequences in this, absent maybe the rain stuff that we talked about, where you don't feel that it's produced and filmed and directed.
That's actually it's an ineffable quality about early 2000s films. They all feel like that. I kind of feel like they all have this sense of like you can see the production, but like if you expanded the 16:9 frame just a little bit more, you could see like the lights and the gaffer and shit like that. Yeah.
Like, where does that differ between like something like Spider-Man 2, where you can feel the seams, but it doesn't matter because they lean into it?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question.
Because when you said that, the thing I thought about immediately, my brain just went to the scene where it's the bank robbery, and Dr. Octavius he's up on the wall and he has Aunt May, and it's a very movie scene where he's got this old lady hostage and Peter Parker is freaking out because it's Aunt May, and he puts the thing behind his back and he pulls out the knife or whatever, and she fucking umbrellas him and drops, and it's the most like movie shit ever, but because it's so authentically cheesy, it doesn't feel artificial. Like, I don't know.
You know what I think it is? It's how they like in a scene earlier, there's a shot where it's somewhere in New York, and then it zooms in like a lot of distance, like through like blocks and blocks, until it reaches Doc Ock on the Empire State Building, and it zooms in right into his glasses. It's this really impossible sort of shot that
I remember that.
rides.
Yeah. This movie has a lot of that kind of shit too.
A lot of it, yeah.
Just the fact that it commits to that sort of thing, does it quite earnestly, sort of preps the rest of the scene to have that disbelief. I feel maybe.
I guess like where I'm struggling is like there's something about it that works in that doesn't here. Like there's some quality between the two that's different. And maybe it's the story, maybe it's the fact that this is like so heavily pulling inspiration. Like I like Spider-Man 2 doesn't feel like the Matrix. This does, but not the Matrix.
Yeah, because only because of the action, right? It's only the action in this movie, Daredevil, that actually makes you think of the Matrix.
Yeah, it's
but everything
stylized
else is
that way.
yeah. But everything else is kind of
But maybe that's the reason. Is there's no singular identity for it. It doesn't feel like it's in service of some greater.
Yeah,
like
it's not novel. Like it's
yeah.
not,
There's no realized like imaginary for what this is supposed to be. It's you know when you watch the Batman and everything in it is wired so tightly to the same vision to Matt Reeves going, hey, what if like 90s grunge noir, like it's so everything is so wide, the costume design, the sound is everything is so wired tightly to that. This feels like a bunch of disparate influences hoping to find the vision in the mix, and it just never does. And maybe the edit, maybe the non-director's cut does, but I doubt it. I don't think the constituent parts are strong enough to make that happen.
No.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy how palpable that feeling is from a viewer's perspective. When from the other side, it's the creators not having a clear vision.
Right.
And it's like...
That's why we kept, like, a scene would happen and we'd laugh, because it'd be so out of tone.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not... Unless it's supposed to be comedy, which a lot of them weren't.
Yeah, just... Is it?
I
what
don't
were they
know.
thinking, honestly?
I don't know.
It's really hard to tell.
Look, baffles the mind. I couldn't tell you. You know, I think maybe the thing I keep coming back to is like the sequence where Elektra dies. I think is really noteworthy at a structural level because.
Wait, I just realized also Trinity dies in the second movie.
That's what I was gonna say.
But she doesn't live
in
in this. She lives in the Matrix, but
well, she lives in the next film. In this,
Yeah, Elektra lives as
true.
well.
She
yeah.
come back.
Sorry, Neo.
She come back.
Daredevil
and,
didn't save her, right?
She
Or
gets her
did-
horn on. She gets real dirty. But the thing about this is, if that sequence, like that moment where she dies, should have been the crescendo of the third act that leads into the fourth act, which gets us to resolution. That happens almost exactly halfway through. And so even at a structural level, like
really,
it was like an hour and 10, and this film is 2 hours and 20, 2 hours and 10. The director's cut.
something like that. Yeah.
And I get aesthetically that they have a relationship, but I don't feel that emotionally beyond Ben Affleck's big acting. Like he does the best with what he's got. What I think
he's
is,
alright.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Like the material's not great. I think what's fucking fascinating as a cultural artifact is Ben Affleck will go on to be Batman in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
That's funny.
And that's fascinating. Like, and he plays a grungy, washed up, like 90s extreme version of what that character could be. And this,
What is Ben Affleck doing? Like, what is he doing? in
Right
his
now?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're right. No. What is he doing with his, in an artistic sort of sense, like in his career? Like,
What's he in?
well, okay, so the reason I ask this is because I think the best thing he's ever been in is Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I was
is
gonna
because
say.
he someone saw every character he's ever played and has realized, like, this dude is not very expressive. He doesn't really embody the character that this film wants to put forward. What he does express is this reserved, like, guy who's holding back a bunch of shit, who has like a bunch of secrets and shit like that, and like, you know, is like, and you know, I assume that's a quality of Ben Affleck that he brings to each of these characters, that you know, that is the consistent, that is like the thread that connects all these characters that he plays. There's this certain, you know, je ne sais quoi that characterizes all of these disparate roles that he takes. Someone recognized that when went, you know what, that would fit really well into this particular narrative of Gone Girl, and therefore he gave the performance of a lifetime in that movie, in my opinion. And so that brings me back to, like, that doesn't seem like a choice that Ben Affleck made. That's something that someone else recognized. So, what is Ben Affleck doing? Like,
So yeah, I have a theory.
yeah,
A film? No, I'm kidding. I do have a theory though, which is I think actors like this are in a difficult position because Ben Affleck is an actor director. He's been around for a long time.
yeah.
His meal ticket was Good Will Hunting. Like that
Yeah,
was how he got into the industry big time.
Yeah.
And I think he's in a difficult position where if he does schlocky single time gigs, like say I'm going to use Daredevil as an example. That's not quite what I mean. But if he's just in a film to be in a film because he's a working actor, there is a way in which people view it as not selling out necessarily, but they view it with a particular negativity. They go, well, are you a character actor or not? Because when you put him in something where he's very well cast, very well directed, for example, Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's phenomenal in that film. All 4.5 hours of it, Jesus. He's incredible in that film because he's directed well, and it was before the reshoots ruined his life, so he's in a good headspace, and he plays the same character where he is hiding. He is a guy who he performs vulnerability while failing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's Ben Affleck's special sauce. I watched the film he made after he went to rehab where he plays he's a dad whose kid dies and it breaks up the marriage, and he's this alcoholic construction worker.
Oh, that sounds good.
And it's brilliant. And the whole film is just him like it's he knows, like, he's not in denial. He's fully aware that he has a problem. Like, to the point where, like, there's a really great sequence. There's a great sequence they do 3 times, setup, payoff, and setup, reminder, payoff, where he gets in the shower in the morning and he's clearly hungover and he drinks a beer in the shower before he goes to work, and it's so grim every time. And they play it to brilliant effect. But my point there is that character is someone going, I wrote a script and he's the perfect person for it. Same with like Snyder's Batman, where like I don't imagine any other actor could fit the role that Snyder like. I don't like Zack Snyder's work, don't get me wrong, but it's pitch perfect casting for that type of character. And I wonder if Ben Affleck is in this tricky position where now moving forward, now that he's kind of worked through some of these issues, I don't know if he can do the same kind of vulnerability in the future that he used to be able to, where it was that performative, like, fake vulnerability because he had that dark thing. Now he seems a lot just like, he just seems happier and like more in himself and in his own body and things like that.
What's this dark thing about him?
Well, he had a real problem with substance for a while.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay,
so without airing his dirty laundry, because I don't like talking about it, but, you know, like the reshoots of the Justice League, he had a drinking problem that escalated, and he ended up going to rehab for quite a period of time. Like, it wasn't like a Hollywood rehab moment. It was like,
it's quite recent then.
Quite recent, yeah. And I suppose you compare and contrast the types of roles he's looking at now. I don't know where you go from there. Like, if you've made your entire career, Daredevil is very much like the type of role where it, on first blush, feels aligned with these things. He's a guy who is like hiding. It's very similar to Batman. That's why they cast him as Batman. But it just lacks that nuance of Gone Girl or God forbid, in the same sentence, Zack Snyder's Justice League. I can't believe I said the Zack Snyder's but like it lacks a, maybe not nuance, it lacks a reservation and a control that I think we see in those other stories, where it's not just that he is brooding and dark, it's that he's telling you about it, and he's being obviously ironic at all times when he's not. I think that's why tonally it doesn't work, is it's at once too grim and too ironic, right? The hyper-saturated cafe scenes are too bright and too fun and too sarcastic, contrasted with the uber serious nighttime fight sequences that are too dark and too serious and too gritty.
Yeah.
And it just can't split the difference.
Yeah. Perfect. Too grim and too ironic. I agree. Like, it
needs a bit of heart.
That plus that equals kind of nothing. Like,
it just ends up being nothing.
Yeah.
Ironically, most of Zack Snyder's career. Gotcha. Yeah, but I think that's fundamentally why it doesn't work. But yeah, like, fundamentally, like, just not a very interesting film, and that kind of sucks. It's really interesting the context of the project we're doing, I think. Yeah, I don't know. Closing thoughts, Michi. Like, obviously you hated it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate it.
You suffered through it.
Pat kind of convinced me a little that the quirkiness has a bit of...
It's got some fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but I wouldn't watch it again.
No, neither.
And I wouldn't have watched it if you guys didn't make me.
We'll look forward to
But
Elektra.
they dragged me out here and they forced me to watch it.
We dragged him out of the state. We said come to Brisbane, and we said watch a bad film.
Yep.
But very soon,
and then talk about it.
But very soon you'll be eating ribs and you'll be happy.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah,
they're smelling good.
They are smelling good. Life's small blessings, I say. Patrick, I mean, so once this airs, well, this will probably air first on Method to Madness, then our feed, because our feed's not gonna. This won't go live for probably 4 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Just with how math works. This is our promo for the show, I guess.
You just released the last episode of Sherlock.
Have some lead time.
How long ago did you film that finale? Like 3-4 months ago.
What?
4.5 months?
Yeah.
I
Jeez.
do a lot of editing.
It's a big backlog.
Well, it's not. It's. I do one show at a time. This will be, I suppose, the sizzle of the show that we're doing.
Yeah, sure.
And you did a really good job in the first, episode 0 of our show of like why Daredevil as a show is interesting,
right?
And why it was interesting to talk about. And I'm going to put you on the spot after a few beers and demand that you tell us why people should listen to Daredevil in the detail.
Like now?
Well, I mean, when it comes out. The episode 0 will be out by the time they hear this. That's going up in like 2 weeks.
Right.
Unless you're that quick at editing. Or my editing is, who knows? But like, why? Okay, if you think about this film, and then you think about the Daredevil TV show, what is so much more interesting to talk about in the TV show? Like what is the thing? Like, why are we so obsessed with it? Because
I'm curious.
Yeah. It's interesting. This film is like a little taste of the themes that are interesting in the show about, particularly about religion and religious narratives and morals, how they're intertwined in the conflicts of the story at large. This movie dips its toe, like its toenail, into those ideas, but it's it's limited by the fact that it's like a 2-hour movie. It needs to get through the plot of Kingpin, being corrupt and ruling the city, and Daredevil fighting people. It's as I said, like when you first suggested we do this movie, I was like, why? But now I kind of get it.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, I get it now. It's really clear to me now why Daredevil works as a long-form TV show and why it needs to be long to explore these really, really interesting, nuanced themes about morality and its relationship with religious text.
The reason Daredevil as a show exists in the format it does is the same reason why Batman the Animated Series exists in the same format it does.
Right.
These are characters that are deeply interested in like ethical frameworks and morality, and like the contrast between this film and with the same elements, the same component elements of like this costume and these characters and this setting and these ideas. The way in which the show is able to think very deeply and interestingly about what it means to just like be alive and think about religion and ethics and morality versus the kind of aesthetic impression that this film has.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go, yeah, of course it's a fucking TV show.
Yeah,
there's so much to work through, and I think for me this crystallizes. Someone watch this. This is what I hope happened. Drew Goddard and I can never remember the other guy's name.
Yeah.
Drew Goddard and the other writer watched the Daredevil film and went, "What if someone did that but good?"
Yeah.
And that's really the vibe I get.
Absolutely,
Yeah. Daredevil in the Details everywhere on your podcast catcher of choice. You can go find it. It's a collaboration between The Method to the Madness and ZeroIndent. I assume you have a normal outro. I know you have a normal outro for The Method to the Madness. So did you want to? I think Michi does it, right? Where can people find us, Michi?
Oh, it switches.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it always does.
Well, I did. You do it.
Do what? Where can people find us? Oh no, I was gonna say that, and then you do it.
I don't mind.
You were too slow.
Right. So I assume this is getting all cut and shit.
Yeah. Well, just say that. Do you not remember?
Yeah, no, I remember.
Okay.
It has been a while.
Yeah, but you got to say it because I talked at the same time. So,
Where can people find us, Michi?
well, people can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Yep.
We've also got a website, AMTTM.com, and you can find all our plugs on there. And we've also got an email mail at AMTTM.com where you can send us any criticism.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah,
Only
yeah, about
positive
Zack
messages.
Snyder. Don't pin that on us. That
Yeah, yeah, that's all,
Send
David.
those- send those to me.
Send that to whatever your email is.
Yeah, I don't want to say it because they will. No, this is really good fun. We will be back at some point to do Elektra because we're going to force you to consume that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't know that yet. And then
no.
probably something else that we'll try.
That's
and
even
finesse.
worse. I saw the reviews and it was like less than 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's when you know it's fucking crap. Like,
Mate, I just know I'm gonna be like making dinner while I'm watching this movie. Like, yeah.
So I'll have to come in and be like, here is the philosophical. It's
Why?
bad.
Why do you do this to yourselves?
We need mid-season specials. I don't know what you want. But hey,
True.
wherever you're consuming this on your iTunes feed, whether it's Daredevil and Details, Method of Madness, consider giving it a rating or review on your podcast catcher of choice. It really does make a difference. It helps other people find the show. Helps people that. But honestly, the best way to help the shows you enjoy is to send it to someone you think might enjoy it. A friend. If you have a Michi in your life, send it to the Michi in your life. Maybe to your aunt if she likes thinking about stories. Maybe to your high school friend who watched Daredevil and thinks it's good. Send them this. Prove them wrong.
Send it to your crush to make them think that like you're an intellectual person, you know, and you're interesting and have some depth.
I have some concerns about Pat's suggestion.
I wonder if that's true. If someone's ever done that,
No,
and then we've
yeah.
managed to help
I
someone.
don't. I hope so.
Find a girlfriend or boyfriend or something.
No, I said that in jest. I think if you actually do that, if anything, it would lower your kind of chances.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really dropping down the chart.
Wait, sorry, just
What's up?
my mind has went somewhere. So pass me that tripod for a second.
What's up?
That
Does this not
you're
look like
talking
Luke
about that.
Skywalker's fucking lightsaber?
Yeah, it does too.
Yeah, right? Like,
yeah, it's black with silver.
Yeah, like, and his lightsaber has that thing at the top, like the little fucking.
Yep.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that, guys. Tell me that does not look like Luke Skywalker.
I'm getting close to the lens.
Pat-
I mean, I fundamentally disagree.
You
on
got
what
some
the fuck
weird
they're talking
fascination with
It's got
David's
some phallic
tripods today.
objects interested in. Hey, that's the episode. That's the thesis. Join us next time. This will be our mid-season break for the podcast with season 2 that you hear next, and then whatever film you guys end up covering. So we'll see.
Woo!
Hey, that's exciting. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And that's a method to the madness.